Hi, I'm Beth from Sew Country, and today's tutorial is for the Tessa crossbody from Lanyos Handmade. The first thing I want to let you know about this pattern is it has so many options with it. The first thing you'll notice is that there will be two sizes available. The smaller one, this is our cell phone option, and then we have the larger, which is the tablet option. You can see, I'm going to show you the size difference between the two. This tablet is a really good size crossbody. Now, I prefer smaller ones. This one's perfect for me for what I carry, but also this size bags do great at craft shows. I'm working up. I have several coming up, so we are going to be making the crossbody today. Some of the options that will come in this pattern is that it will have a slip pocket in the front. You have an option for a zipper pocket with an overlay in the pattern on the back. You have an option to do credit card slots. She gives you that information. A slip pocket, I don't know if you can see that well, and even a zipper pocket on the inside. And she gives you several strap options. So you can kind of customize this pattern to be whatever fits what you need for your own carrying choices, or if you're wanting to make gifts, or if you're wanting to do craft shows. So there's several ways to customize this pattern, so it's like you get several patterns in one. So in this crossbody and in the one I'm going to sew up today, I'm going to be using all vinyl. Vinyl is a way to save a little bit of time while you're sewing because I will not have to add any interfacing or stabilizer. If you're using cotton woven, go ahead and interface with a medium weight interfacing like an SF101 or like Royal Pixie Light. That's what I use. But for the vinyl, you don't need to do anything. If you're using cotton woven, you could also add a fleece if you wanted to give it a little bit more stability. All the vinyls I'm using are from J&R Edwards. These are all upcoming releases, so you can join the Facebook group to watch for when these release if you're interested in that. On this one, I did use a waterproof canvas for the lining. I wanted to save time, and that was great, but I didn't like the way it turned. When I was turning, it was a little bit tricky, so I wanted to try cotton woven with this one. So for this one, my lining is going to be cotton woven. So let's look first at our slip pocket. This is the pocket in the front. So I'm using vinyl for the exterior, and then I also have a lining, which is a cotton woven interfaced with the midway interfacing. I'm going to go ahead and clip these two right sides together, because that's the way I will sew it. So let's just put a little clip there, set it aside. Then we have our front and back exterior, vinyl on these, nothing else on it. Front back lining, cotton woven with a midway interfacing. Set those aside. I am going to add a slip pocket to this one, so I am just using cotton woven interfaced. I'm going to fold this right sides together against that long edge. Put a few clips in here because this is the way I'm going to sew this one as well. I clip things together the way I know I'll be sewing them as soon as I cut them, and that kind of helps me to already feel like I'm started on the pattern, and it kind of helps my mental motivation. Next thing I need is a zipper. The pattern gives us the instructions for the length to cut when you're using zipper tape, but I like that she also gives you the length if you're using a prepared zipper, because they do it is different lengths, so you do need to be aware of that. So cut your zipper, add a zipper pull. We just need one zipper tab. I'm going to use just a scrap of vinyl. I'm leaving it raw edge, so I'm simply going to fold it in half and clip it around that edge. Go ahead and clip this now, because that way I can take it right over to the machine and I'm ready. You also will need two connectors. The pattern gives you options if you're going to do this raw edge, vinyl, fabric, whatever you want to do. I'm choosing to use raw edge. I'm also choosing, instead of using an actual D-ring, to use these O-rings. And so for mine, the O-ring, I just got these off Amazon, and they're actually 1 inch in the middle here. But when you get closer to this edge down here, it's really closer to 3/4 of an inch. So I could have cut my D-rings at 1 inch, but I knew they would sit better if I went down to 3/4 of an inch. So I actually cut them at 3/4 of an inch, and I went ahead and slid my O-ring on the D-ring connector, clipped it, and then I'm going to just base these in place here at the bottom, and I may add a rivet here at the top. Undecided. But you will need 2 of these. And then the strap for me, I'm choosing the heavy hardware option. You have different options. You can choose just traditional webbing or a simple fabric strap, however you want to do it. I'm making a raw edge heavy hardware strap. So this is, let me talk about it a little bit. So when creating this strap, you should have 4 pieces this length and then 2 longer pieces. Then what I did was I took 2 of them and glued them wrong sides together. I use this Beacon 3-in-1. It's just a preference of mine. And I don't put a lot. I don't want it like oozing out the sides. And then I just match up those short edges and then just lay it down. You do have a few minutes once you lay it down to kind of adjust and pull. So it's not like you won't be able to readjust once you set it down, but it does dry quickly. After this dries, the next thing I'll do is I will top stitch down the long edge and have all of my straps taken care of. So now that I have this strap glued together, top stitched down each side, I'm going to go ahead and add some of my hardware on here and have that taken care of and out of the way. So I'm just going to slip on my swivel hook and fold it down. The pattern tells you how far to fold it down. And then I'm just going to sew right below this edge that I have folded to secure my swivel hook. You can always add a rivet if you're a little nervous. You could sew a box or you could do 2 rows of stitches. So the swivel hook's attached to one end. I grab my O-ring, or if you have a D-ring connector, I'm going to go ahead and attach it here on the other end. We don't have to worry about making sure anything's pointed the same way because the swivel hook, of course, turns and the circles around, so no issues there. I fold it down just like the pattern says, and I go ahead and stitch it as well. Okay, so I have this strap part completed. I'm going to repeat this with the second one of the same size, but I'm not going to do anything to the longer piece. Then I will set all of these aside and we'll wait till the very end to finish everything up. I also have this strap adjuster. I'm not for sure if I'm going to use it or not, but I'm going to see. I'm undecided on this, but we'll wait to the end and decide on that part. So now that we got our strap completed, or the part we can complete right now, we're going to move on to the next section. Whenever I was showing you all the pieces, I showed you how I had everything clipped together. So now all I have to do is I have to go take all these pieces over to the sewing machine because they're already prepped and ready to go. So for my zipper, I'm just going to sew on that zipper tab 1/8 of an inch away from this raw edge and have that completed. My 2 D-ring connectors, I'm just going to baste each of the bottoms here, and I think I'm just going to go ahead and sew right below where this hardware is so it kind of stays in place a little bit. The pattern doesn't say you have to do that. It's just something that I like, so you can choose that as an option if you want. The slip pocket, we have the exterior and the lining clipped right sides together. All we're going to do here is we're going to sew with the seam allowance given the pattern across this top edge. We're not going to go down the bottom at all. For our slip pocket, we are going to start stitching at the bottom, go up, pivot, and come over just a little bit. Then we'll back stitch here, back stitch when you start of course too, and break our stitches. We're going to leave this opening for our turning, and then we'll come over here and start sewing again with the seam allowance given the pattern, back stitch, go over the top, pivot, and come down and back stitch to end. So let's do all of these prep pieces all at once, and then we'll go on to our next step. So now we sewed the D-ring connectors in place here, so we're going to set these aside. We also sewed the slip pocket and the front slip pocket, this one's the interior one, and our zipper tab. So we have a few more steps we can do now. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take the interior slip pocket, and I'm just going to cut diagonally across these corners, making sure that I'm not going into the stitches. I'm also just going to clip diagonal here. This is not required. It just kind of helps it, I think, to lay a little bit better after we turn it. So now I'm just going to turn this right sides out. I usually put my hands in there, go in, push my thumb right in that first corner to kind of pop it out, and then the rest of it just follows. I will take a blunt stiletto and poke out the corners. You can use an ink pen, blunt scissors, whatever you have. Just take your time. Once you get your corners poked out to your satisfaction, just put your fingers in that opening and pull, and then you will have that naturally close. Put a few clips there, or take it over to the iron, whichever your preference is, just to keep that closed. Top stitch along this edge, and then we will close up that gap whenever we add it to our lining. Okay, for my slip pocket, I'm going to just lay it the right side down, and I'm just going to use my finger since I'm using vinyl and kind of push that seam open. But if you have all cotton woven, take it over the ironing board for just a minute, and it'll really help it to get a better lay. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold them wrong sides together, and I'm going to put a few clips here at the top, so it'll kind of hold it there, and then we will take this over to the sewing machine and top stitch it along this top edge we just sewed as well. Okay, so there's that. Last thing I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and work on my zipper. The pattern gives you the exact ways to do this, but I'm going to show you just a quick way to do it. I already know what the seam allowance she wants me to use in this pattern is. So if you read ahead, you learn that, and you know where you don't want this zipper to be. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of put that into place here. So I'll lay it onto my exterior, keeping it out of that seam allowance because I won't want my tab to be sewn over. And then I put it to this edge. Then I take a marking tool and I just make marks as to where I want this zipper to end on this side with that seam allowance included. So I just made two little lines there. Then what I do is I open up that zipper, and those two lines I drew, you may not be able to see them, but I just pinch and pull that zipper down. Okay, and then I'm going to put a clip right here. This gives me a 90-degree angle. And the reason why I love to finish bags with this method is that you get a better opening. When you have a zipper tab, and she tells you this in the pattern, the zipper tab on this end will not allow you to get into the bag as widely as if you use this method. So I use this method in like almost all pouches and bags that I sew, just because I get a better opening. So now after I have this clipped, what I do is I just do a common sense check. It's what I tell all my students in class. We always check that common sense. I'm going to lay it down and see if it looks like the seam allowance I want. Did I get my measurements accurately so that it's going to stay out of the seam allowance without any issues? I feel like I could actually tighten it up a little bit, so I'm going to make it a little bit, make my zipper a little bit shorter to get that seam allowance just a little bit better. So I'll just pull it down a little more. And lots of times I will even take some glue and glue that down, but for this video I'm not going to. But you know, you can, if you're afraid that your machine won't be able to capture that, or it'll come undone while it's under the machine, you can easily put some glue there, or whatever you prefer to use, double-sided tape even. But what I do is I feed it under my machine like this. So this machine is sewing this way, so I start about right here, sews this way. As soon as I feel that extra bulk from the zipper tape, I backstitch right there and I go all the way down. I'm sewing about 1/8 of an inch away from this raw edge. I do not sew over my teeth. I stop right when I get to this fold and then I backstitch. If you go over the teeth, that's going to make things shift, and that's when you will lose that perfect 90-degree fold there. So keep that in mind too. Use your stiletto to help you hold everything down, but we are going to now finish up these 3 pieces. I'm going to sew them and we're moving right along with this pattern. So now that I've top stitched on the exterior slip pocket, I'm going to go ahead and pull out my exterior front, and I'm just going to clip it on there, and we'll just baste that in place along this bottom curve here. Anytime I say baste, I basically mean 1/8 of an inch away from the raw edge there. And then I'm also going to pull out the one of my interior linings, and I'm going to use, the pattern tells you exactly where to place your slip pocket, so I'm going to go ahead using the pattern measurements and get that placed on here. So I'm going to place that, and then I'm just going to sew around the 3 edges, of course leaving that top edge open for us to get in. One other thing, we had sewn our zipper down, and so I'll just clip those pieces off there. That way our zipper is ready. Okay, so let's go back to the sewing machine and do these couple steps. Okay, now that we have those 2 pieces attached, I'm going to set my lining aside, and we need to add our connectors. Now the pattern does tell us that we add these on the back, and she gives the measurements for it, but I'm okay with adding them to my front and just using the same measurements but adding them to the front portion of my bag so I can make sure I don't have any interference, like if I messed up my slip pocket and it was too big and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and add both of my connectors and using the exact measurements given in the pattern. So now we have our pieces assembled and we're ready to put everything together. So now we're going to attach our zipper to the bag and finish everything up. So she has a unique zipper technique, and I want to try to take the time to show it properly. It is different than what you would consider a traditional zipper sandwich. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our zipper and place it right sides together with our exterior. I'm starting with my front. So I'm just going to baste this in place. Okay, I got that basted. I do want to add that she gives you the exact placement for the zipper, but just make sure you have it centered and it's equal, but there is an exact measurement she gives you to let you know that you have everything properly fixed. So now what you're going to do is you're going to take your back exterior and you're going to place it right sides together with your front, lining up and matching your sides, and then you're going to attach that other side of the zipper tape, the top, to the top of that other exterior, and it's going to be right sides together again. Let me flip it over so you can see a little better. Just matching this all up. I want to make sure everything is connected and centered. And so now that I have that clipped, I'm going to take it over here, flip it over, and sew it the same way, seam allowance given in the pattern. Okay, so this is what it looks like now. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to lay, it doesn't matter which side you start with unless you have a preference as to which interior goes where, but I'm just going to lay it like this. So the back exterior is right sides up, but my front exterior is right sides down. I'm going to take one of my lining pieces and I'm going to place it right side down, and I'm going to match it up to the top edge. So what you're really doing is you're making sure that whichever edge you're sewing of your lining, it's right sides together with that exterior. So let me go ahead and put some clips there. And get that clip together. So you can see the exteriors are still right sides together, and then we have that lining that is wrong sides to one exterior, but the one it's actually be sewn with, it's right sides. Little unique, a little different there. So that threw me for a loop for sure. Now the main thing to remember when you're sewing this is we're only sewing on the zipper. Our side pieces are going to stay unsewn and open on both ends. So make sure you take note of that. So let's go ahead and just sew the zipper portion along that zipper portion. If you want, you can even flip it over if you're nervous and sew it from the side with your stitching already, so that you can watch to make sure you do not go over and sew the portions you're not supposed to. So now that I sewed that portion, I'm going to flip that out of the way, turn it over, so this is what I'm looking at, take my remaining lining, and now it's a little bit easier to understand. You're going to put it right sides together with that lining, clipping again that unsewn edge of the zipper to the top. And one more time we're going to sew this lining piece to the zipper, but only sewing the zipper, not sewing the edges, so just along the zipper tape. At this point, I really like to top stitch. You don't have to, it's not a requirement, but you can top stitch, so I'm going to separate my exteriors and my linings, and then I'm going to top stitch, but I have to make for sure that I only top stitch along the zipper. I don't close up these edges, they remain open. So what I'll do is, let me get these clips out of the way. What I will do is just top stitch 1/8 of an inch away from the sewn edge. And I'll kind of keep my lining and exterior kind of pulled tight so that everything stays flat and smooth. So now we have top stitched around the zipper. So this is our exterior. This is our interior. Can you see that? Okay, so now we're just going to finish up this bag like we would any other bag. We're going to make sure our zipper is open and pull the exteriors together and our linings together. We're going to clip all the way around. So I put a few clips in place, and I want to note that I have, you can still see that these are completely separate, your exterior and your lining. And so what I did was I just put clips. They kind of want to fold back, and so I went ahead and folded them back and just clipped those there. Now we're going to sew all the way down, but I was just keeping that clip like that so I could show you guys, but we will sew everything all together. What we'll do is we'll start here. Leave a decent size hole because you can see how long this is. So you're going to have to stick your hand down here to turn it. So leave a decent size hole there, back stitching on both sides. So it's a secure birthing hole there. And then we're just going to sew all the way around. Make sure your D-rings, where my D-rings are these O-rings, they're a little heavy and they want to come out. So just make sure you keep those tucked in while you're sewing and use the seam allowance given in the pattern. Although, when you're coming across your zipper, if for any reason the zipper tab or the zipper itself is trying to get in that seam allowance, change your seam allowance. Do not sew over the zipper at all. So if you're sewing and it's getting close, just veer a little bit over and leave those edges free. Okay, let's sew. Okay, I have my bag sewn together. I'm just going to trim off a little bit, not all the way, but a little bit off my D-rings. And I'm just going to reach my hand in there and birth everything out. Oh my gosh. Look at this bag. It is so cute and adorable. Everything looks great. So the last thing we have to do is we have to close up the birthing hole and then finish our strap. So I always put the lining in first before I close up the hole, just to make sure everything looks good and I don't need to fix anything. So let's pull that out. And I just put my fingers in there and pull, and it naturally wants to go the way it should. We're just going to put a few clips in there and then just sew, back stitching of course, but just about 1/8 of an inch away to close up that hole. Okay, so that's done. So let's work on our strap. Now I went ahead and I have everything top stitched just like I was saying I was going to do. But the original adjuster I was going to use was way too big. It was a 1 inch and it just looked really bad. So I switched it. I found this little 3/4 of an inch adjuster. And what I did was I just took it. Let me show you how, just in case. I always struggle with these things. So you slide it down one side and then you just wrap it around that bar. And I would say I do it about have about 1 inch overhang. And then once I have this point, once I have it at this point on there, you can see what it looks like. I just go ahead and sew down to attach that to itself. So you just fold it down to itself. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so now that I have that attached, I'm going to take one of those connectors I made and just slide it on. So it's just going to go down there. And then I take this free end and I'm just going to feed it through again. Or feed it through the first time. Now at this point we have one attached and I need to go ahead and grab the other one. And I'm just going to fold that raw edge over just like we did on the adjuster bar. About 1 inch again like we did on our adjuster, and I'm just going to sew it the same way. Now I have to trim up my threads, of course, but I'm going to go ahead and connect this and show you what it looks like so you have a kind of like an idea as if you would want to do your strap like this, or of course you could just do your regular strap, your preference on that. This is just a super cute way to do it. So I'll take a picture of this and show you. I'll have it in the picture, the thumbnail for this video, so you can see the strap clearly. I know it's hard to see it on my camera view because it's kind of a close cropped in view. But this is the Tessa bag from Lanyos Handmade. You can see how quickly it comes together. When you buy the pattern, you will get both sizes. You will get all the options included. And I might even do another video with this at some point in the future because I'd like to show the credit card slot option and some of the other features like maybe the back pocket overlay. But anyway, this is her latest pattern. I will have the pattern link in the description. I will also have the Facebook group for J&R Edwards for all the vinyls I used in this video. And I hope you have a great day, and I would love to see yours. Join the Lanyos Handmade Facebook group. Share your pictures so we can see those. You're always welcome to ask questions in there. The designer is an amazing lady, very sweet and friendly, and loves to help people sew and create. So thank you so much. Have a great day.